Right, let's move on. Before we come to this statement, I must advise the House that the case relating to Anne Widdecombe's death is not yet sub judice, as charges have not been brought. However, there is a live criminal investigation ongoing, and members should take care not to say anything in this House that might prejudice the future trial. I therefore urge members to avoid speculating about the guilt or innocence of any person, the identity of the person who has been arrested, or the motive for the attack. Members may wish to discuss the general arrangements for security, safety of politicians and other connected matters, but they should avoid discussing the detail of individual members' security arrangements. I now call on the Home Secretary.
With permission, Mr. Speaker, I wish to make a statement about the death of Anne Widdecombe. It is with great sadness that I say those words. My thoughts today are with her family, her friends, and all those who loved her. Anne Widdecombe dedicated her life to politics and public service. For nearly 40 years, she was a fixture of our political life. She brought conviction to our politics, grounded in her profound Catholic faith. She was forthright in her opinions and argued courageously for the things she believed in. But perhaps most of all, she brought an inimitable style to politics. She was forthright and fearless. As Lord Howard of Lymm can attest, she had a memorable turn of phrase, and she was joyful. She thought seriously about ideas, but she did not take herself too seriously, and that allowed her to reach beyond this place and charm the country at large. She was one of those rare politicians who was bigger than politics. There have been so many moving tributes in the last few days, reflecting her impact both within this place and beyond politics. But I think her outlook on life is best summed up by Anne herself. Sitting on Graham Norton's sofa, she said, and I quote, "We get one go this side of eternity, one go. Life is not a dress rehearsal. You take opportunities that you like and you go for it." Anne took her opportunities. She was the proud MP for Maidstone for 23 years, a champion of her constituents. She served the country in government as Minister for Employment and then Prisons, and she took politics out of these ancient walls and became a bona fide TV star. Her contribution to our politics and our national life will never be forgotten. Mr. Speaker, on Wednesday, Anne Widdecombe was murdered in her home. The circumstances of her death are extremely distressing. Counter-terrorism policing have now taken the lead in the investigation. As Lawrence Taylor, the head of National Counter-Terrorism Policing, has said, and I quote, "We now have new information and evidence that means counter-terrorism policing is leading the investigation. We are pursuing multiple lines of inquiry to establish the motivation for this attack." The police now have a suspect in custody, a 28-year-old white British man, and I can confirm to the House that this man was not known to prevent. The police have cautioned against speculating about the case. That is the right thing to do for Anne's family and friends. It is also vital that the police are given the space they need to carry out their work. For now, what matters most is supporting the investigation so that we can see justice delivered for Anne and all who loved her. And I would urge anyone with any information at all to come forward immediately. Mr. Speaker, I know this raises questions about the security of those in public life. I will not be the only one here thinking also of two other beloved members of this House, Joe Cox and Sir David Amess. Politics is a calling for those of us here, but it should not be a dangerous one. And so it is incumbent on the House and the Government to work together to protect those who choose to serve. The Home Office and the police work closely with the Parliamentary Security Department to provide practical advice and support directly to MPs. But we must always be vigilant to changing threats and respond. Security measures are kept under constant review to ensure MPs can carry out their duties safely. And I know that the police intend to issue guidance to MPs soon, and they will be contacting parliamentarians in their constituencies to offer support. I also recently commissioned the former Lord Chancellor, Sir Robert Buckland, to review the lessons from Sir David Amess's murder, including into required improvements to security for MPs working in their constituencies. I recognise the particular concern that the Reform Party will feel today, and of course Nigel Farage, the party's leader. I'm happy to offer a meeting for Mr Farage with the chair of RAVIC, the independent body within the Home Office that manages the security of those in public life. And I will also be looking at what security guidance can be provided to former members of Parliament, which I hope to work with you on, Mr Speaker, as well as those who serve a party outside of this place. Today is a dark day in our political life, but we must also use it as an opportunity to celebrate Anne Widdecombe's memory. She was a unique figure in our politics, a distinctive and devoted public servant, the likes of whom we will rarely, if ever, see again. Anne had a profound faith. Her journey in this life has ended too soon. May she now rest in eternal peace. I commend this statement to the House.
Shadow Home Secretary Chris Phil.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Home Secretary for advance sight of her statement. I start by offering my deepest condolences to Anne's family and friends. She will be terribly missed. Anne sat as the Conservative MP for Maidstone for nearly a quarter of a century and in the European Parliament for the Brexit Party. She served in government and in opposition, including as Shadow Home Secretary. She always fearlessly spoke her mind. She did not worry about whether her opinion would be popular or would be fashionable. She always said exactly what she believed and exactly what she thought. Her integrity and her fortitude were unmatched. I first met Anne 29 years ago at a university debate, speaking on opposite sides. I was a callow 21-year-old student. She had just left government and was at the height of her powers. I remember starting my speech by asking her to treat me more gently than she had recently treated Michael Howard. Needless to say, I was put very firmly in my place. Anne was also a much-loved celebrity with memorable appearances on Strictly Come Dancing and Celebrity Big Brother, including being whirled around by, I think it was Anton Dubek. So we will all remember Anne fondly as a public figure who was always formidable, she was always charming, and she was always entertaining. Now, Mr Speaker, as we discuss this appalling murder, we should heed the words of Devon and Cornwall Assistant Chief Constable Matt Longman, who said at the weekend this: "We are aware of online and public speculation, particularly with regard to motive. I urge people not to share or engage with speculation. It is unhelpful and distressing to Anne's friends and family, and particularly harmful to our investigation." Criminal barrister Dennis Kavanagh also recently pointed out that speculation makes the police's job harder and in some cases could even prejudice a trial. And I urge everyone debating this issue to keep that in mind. Mr Speaker, it has just been confirmed by the Home Secretary that counter-terrorism police are now leading the murder investigation. So to help avoid that speculation, is there any further information the Home Secretary can properly share about this without prejudicing the investigation? I'd like to thank the police for releasing the information they have so far, including about the identity of the suspect. It is always important to release as much information as possible in the interest of transparency and to avoid misinformation filling the void, as Jonathan Hall KC, the independent reviewer of terrorism legislation, has said previously. Let me turn now to threats against those in public life. Any threats against MPs who have been democratically elected to represent their constituents or others in public life should be taken extremely seriously. In the last 10 years, 2 MPs, Joe Cox and Sir David Amess, have been murdered. And now a former MP has been murdered as well. The threat is clearly real. I also remember in 2017 when terrorist Khalid Massoud drove a car into pedestrians along Westminster Bridge, injuring more than 50 people, 4 fatally, and then ran into New Palace Yard, just yards from where we sit here, where he fatally stabbed PC Keith Palmer. That was also an attack on democracy itself. And Mr Speaker, I would like to thank you personally for all the work you are doing to protect MPs and those in public life. I know that as the Speaker of the House of Commons, you have made the safety and protection of those in public life your highest priority, and I would like to thank you for that. We must redouble our efforts to ensure that public political figures who are MPs and those like Anne who are not MPs always receive the proportionate protection they need. I'd be grateful if the Home Secretary could confirm that she will review all the arrangements with this objective in mind. I believe in this country we should be able to debate each other robustly on important issues, but should also speak to each other in a way that is civil and respectful. Of course, nothing excuses violent attacks on public figures, but we should all also set an example of civility and calm and not inflame. Mr. Speaker, we need people to step up and become MPs and also speak in the public square. Debate and disagreement are what make our country great. Anne Widdecombe exemplified that every minute of her life. I pay tribute to her. I know we will all remember Anne forever.
Yeah. Home Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and let me thank the Shadow Home Secretary both for his own remarks and memories of Anne Widdecombe and also for his questions. Let me say to him that in relation to the new information that has come to light and the progress on the counter-terrorism policing investigation, there is a statement that has been put out by counter-terrorism policing, which I believe has been published online, but I will make sure it is placed in the library of the House as well. The main things to draw out for that are the fact, as I said in my statement, that new information and evidence means that they are now leading the investigation and that they are pursuing multiple lines of inquiry in order to establish the motivation of this attack. As soon as more information is available that is capable of being shared without compromising any future trial process, that will be done. So we take seriously, and I know counter-terrorism policing take very seriously the learnings from the summer of 2024 and definitely to heed the call of Jonathan Hall, Casey and others on timely release of information without compromising the ability to bring someone ultimately to justice, which is of course the main aim when such a horror of an attack happens. Let me also, Mr. Speaker, say I would like to echo the remarks made by the Shadow Home Secretary to you and to thank you personally for all of your efforts in maintaining the safety and security of parliamentarians. I know it's something that you personally worry about and take a deep interest in. Let me also say given the fast-moving nature of this investigation, I don't want to say anything that will prejudice the direction of travel here. However, there is a question that is raised in this as a result of this murder, which relates not just to the security arrangements for sitting members of Parliament, but for those who have left this place, but nevertheless retain a public profile as a result of their political party membership or their political activities. There are also, given the range of new political parties that are contesting the political and democratic space. I think questions about those who are not represented at all here in the House of Commons. And just to reassure you, Mr. Speaker, I will be looking at those arrangements very closely. I will seek to work with Mr. Speaker directly and my officials will engage with parties across this House and those outside of it to make sure that whatever changes are made are done so in a manner that covers the multiple range of threats that we see. Mr. Speaker, I think there has been a step change in the security of parliamentarians over the last few years, but I think that it is a reflection of the multi-layered threats that our democracy faces and that our active individuals in democracy face, that this is not something we can ever take for granted or believe is settled. It is something that we have to continually review, which we do, and there are new questions that are raised, which I will make it my personal business to answer, and I will update the House in due course.
Member of the House, Diana.
The Home Secretary will be aware of how important it is to make sure that members of this House get the protection and the defence they need. At one point, I got as many threats and abuse and threats of violence as all the other women MPs put together. So I think it's important that we take this issue seriously. I think we should recognise, and I can speak to that because of my years in the House that this has got much, much worse with the rise of online activity. And so we need to find a way to make some of these online companies more accountable for the threats and the violence that they allow on their platforms. And we need to make it aware, as I just said, the importance of protecting members of Parliament.
Home Secretary.
Mr Speaker, let me say to the Mother of the House that I think that given the sheer range of threats that have been made to her personally, it is a testament to her personal bravery that she has continued to be an active parliamentarian, but it should not take such levels of bravery to just be able to represent the people of your constituency. And she is absolutely right that we must always make sure that our security arrangements are able to keep pace with the changing nature of threats that members of Parliament are facing. Let me assure her we, as the government, will do that, and we work very closely with the Parliamentary Security Department in order to make sure that that is the case, so that all members can make their contribution just as effectively and for just as long as she has.
Some Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The news about Anne Widdecombe is shocking and deeply distressing. My thoughts are with her family, including her nephew, the Reverend Roger Widdecombe, my constituent, and his wife Hannah, who lead the congregation at St Paul's Church in Cheltenham. Her death is all the more tragic, given what we now know about the upsetting and disturbing circumstances. Anne Widdecombe was a conviction politician and also an entertainer. Many did not agree with her views, including me, particularly when she was briefly my member of the European Parliament. But the style in which she put those views was compelling, and it captured the attention of her nation, just as her dance moves. They were deeply held beliefs, and she was a passionate public servant who was never afraid to challenge those in power, and might I briefly speculate, Mr Speaker, a strong liberal inclination to challenge power from a strong Conservative politician. I want to pay tribute to the police for their rapid response in this case, and I want to pay tribute to you, Mr Speaker, for the way in which your office gives security support to MPs. It is important we are able to do our jobs without fear, intimidation or worse. It is, of course, horrifying that there have been 3 politicians murdered in this country in the past decade. Clearly there is more work to be done. Might the government support some amendments to the upcoming Representation of the People Bill to impose a duty on the Electoral Commission to provide more guidance and safety for politicians? And will the Home Office consider supporting some measures so the safety of politicians can be improved? And finally, Mr Speaker, some alarming allegations were made on the weekend by the Reform Home Affairs spokesperson Zia Youssef. If they are true, these allegations are extremely concerning, but given his record, I think many of us have doubts. I'm certain that the government and the House authorities, including you, Mr Speaker, are taking seriously the duty of care to members from all parties in this House. But for the sake of the record, perhaps the Home Secretary can confirm that this remains the case.
Let me thank the Honourable Member for his contribution on his 3 specific issues that he raised on the amendments to the Representation of the People Bill. Let me say to him, I'm very happy to discuss with him. He knows that Home Office is not the lead for that bill, but I'm very happy to have a discussion with him about any additional measures that might be needed in terms of legislation. Of course, the Electoral Commission has its own work to do. It might be better that duties are placed elsewhere, but as I say, I'll happily discuss that with him. And equally, whether there's any further obligations or changes of policy in respect of the Home Office or indeed the Parliamentary Security Department. Again, I'm happy to engage with him and other members across this House. Let me also say, I don't wish to speak for you, Mr Speaker, but I think all those of us who are members can attest to the fact that all of us are treated equally in this place by the Speaker and also for the purposes of the Parliamentary Security Department when it comes to our safety on this estate and also in our constituencies. Let me say that is a position shared by the government. There is equal treatment for all in terms of the work that we do on security of members of Parliament. There is specific work that is undertaken by RAVEC, which is the independent body within the Home Office that looks at security arrangements for some of those in public life. That work is also fiercely independent. It has been the subject of legal proceedings before, and I've always maintained the independence of that process, and that is based on risk assessment and risk management.
Just for the record, every member of Parliament is equal in the security to me. There is no difference between any member, I want to assure you. When things are brought to my attention, because we don't discuss security, I don't put out there what is happening, what has been done, but I reassure everybody that when it is mentioned to me, it is passed on to the security people to deal with. Unfortunately, I'm sorry that people don't think I do that. Lucy Powell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I join the Home Secretary in paying my respects and condolences to the family of Anne Widdecombe? We might not have agreed politically, but I always greatly admired and respected her outspokenness, her fearlessness, and her ability to not take herself too seriously. I think she was one of a kind, Mr Speaker, and of the like, frankly, we don't make any more. I think we can all agree on that. I hope that on moments like this, we can come together across the House to talk about these issues as one voice. And can I also place on record my thanks to you, Mr Speaker, for your leadership in all that you've done over many years in making sure that we're all kept safe and secure. Hear, hear. Does the Home Secretary agree with me, though, that this is not about more than just our security and our safety? It's also about reducing the level of threat. We are now in a highly politicised, highly polarised, highly personalised debate in this country, and that is bringing more and more threats onto all of us. And does she agree with me that we do need to tackle some of the online algorithms and business models which heighten this kind of polarisation and hate towards those in public life, and we must do more to tackle this with urgency?
I thank the Honourable Lady for her contribution and her questions. Let me say, I think she's right that the current climate that we are operating in within our national politics is unlike any that most of us have seen. Those of us who've been around for a while can see the big change that has occurred over the last decade or so, and we do absolutely have to do more as a government and as a society to know exactly what the boundaries are between passionate, contested, fierce debate of the kind that Anne Widdecombe herself engaged in, and then behaviour that spills into threats and harassment of the kind that is designed to drive people out of public life. And getting that balance right, I think, is absolutely crucial. I think it is clear that there is more work for the government to do, there is more work for us to do across society. That includes social media platforms taking greater responsibility for the kinds of behaviours that are promoted on their platforms, and I can assure her that I will be discussing this with colleagues across government to make sure that we are responding to all of those challenges.
Dame Karen Bradley, Chair of the Home Affairs Select Committee.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Like many on this side of the House, I have very fond memories of Anne. She made the effort to travel to Staffordshire Moorlands. Not many people do. We're quite an isolated area. And she came to Consul... Yes, they come to Alton Towers. The Honourable Gentleman is quite right. But she came to Consul Hall Gardens, as it was then, to do a fundraising dinner for me. And she delivered a tour de force, which I suspect the then Prime Minister, the noble Lord Cameron, might not have entirely approved of, but my association were totally enraptured and thought it was the most wonderful event, and it's still fondly remembered in the association, not least because she told me I had to take my heels off because I was going to stand far too tall next to her in the photographs, and that was not appropriate. Can I also thank Staffordshire Police for contacting me this weekend and making a visit to my home to review my security arrangements at home. I know police forces across the country will be doing that, and I'm very grateful to them for taking that time. But could I ask the Home Secretary to comment on what might happen in the longer term around the prevent duty? She will know that the Home Affairs Select Committee did produce a report on new forms of radicalisation and extremism, and we have some recommendations which we hope might be able to help the law enforcement and others to find those that have a tendency towards violence. Could I ask her if she will consider that in the longer term?
Home Secretary.
Let me say to the Honourable Lady, she makes a really important point actually on the prevent duty and the changing nature of the threat and the consequences that has for the prevent programme. I think it's absolutely essential that we retain a de-radicalisation programme that is focused on ideology, but as she knows, and as those who are also expert in these matters know, the range of threats and the link between ideology, mixed ideology, occasional ideology, mental health and other issues is now asking us a bigger question about how the prevent strategy works in the future and how we deal with the threats that fall outside of that through wider and other societal programmes. I will absolutely look at the recommendations her committee makes, and I hope to discuss those with her committee when I appear before them, hopefully very soon.
Member of the Speakers' Conference on Security, John Slinger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I send my deepest sympathy and condolences to the friends and family of Anne Widdecombe, and also extend that to her former colleagues from the Conservative Party and the Reform UK Party, for whom I know this must be a very difficult and sad time. I want to put on record, Mr. Speaker, that you chose that the subject of the Speakers' Conference for this Parliament would be the security of MPs, candidates and elections, and we have done good work on in the Speakers' Conference, but there is much more to be done, as I'm sure we can all agree. So will the Home Secretary confirm that she will work closely with you, Mr. Speaker, and the Parliamentary Security Department and all others who care about protecting our democracy from the threats that sadly are growing?
Absolutely give that assurance to my honourable friend. I will pick up a discussion with Mr. Speaker and others on how we think about security for those who are no longer members of this place, and also the specific new circumstances that are raised by Anne Widdecombe's murder. And I'm happy to work across party and across all of this House, and indeed with the Speakers' Conference as well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're all reeling with shock, sadness and anguish at the loss of our Anne, and also the manner in which she has been taken from us. She was a colossus in public life, in political life, a legend adored and loved by millions and millions of people, including my own late mother, for whom she spoke so very warmly of Anne. She was a remarkable lady. She had an incredible work ethic. She would think nothing of going the length and breadth of the country to speak at rallies. She was an incredible orator who always spoke without notes. Absolutely remarkable. And her philosophy to life, the Home Secretary touched on it, she viewed life as it's not a dress rehearsal. You grasp every opportunity. You go for it as far as possible. Her career, her political career here, Mr. Speaker, I checked earlier. In 23 years, she made over 8,000 contributions in this place, and some remarkable witty interventions. When an honourable member said that she should disappear with her broomstick, she immediately replied, "I have my broomstick and I will cast a spell over you." and that was her nature. Likewise, her media career was also remarkable. She was an agony aunt in 2 programmes. She was a most deserving semi-finalist in Strictly Come Dancing, for sure. And of course, Celebrity Big Brother, and she was an incredible panto performer that was adored by so many. Her conviction, her passion, and her advocacy for free speech was to be commended. I had the honour of working with her for the last 7 years, and despite being a foot taller than her, I somehow always found myself looking up to her. And she also, when she phoned, I always stood up, on my toes, incoming, beware. And that was Anne. And we will miss her dearly. And I also think that the Scottish whisky industry has lost a very discerning customer. And maybe there could be a limited edition, Widder's Whisky, where the tasting notes may reflect unique, unforgettable flavours, a fiery, spicy series of tones, but a blend to be treasured to eternity. May she rest in peace, Mr. Speaker. And I just asked the Home Secretary in conclusion, could she ensure that the counter-terrorism unit keep us updated on as regular possible basis? And given the nature of these things, we all want our police forces to do brilliantly, of course. Would it be wise, when considering motivation, when giving us early updates, to keep things being open-ended as opposed to motive, as opposed to ruling things out too quickly that may then end up being ruled back in?
Well, let me first say to the honourable gentleman that was a very moving and affecting tribute to Anne Widdecombe. Let me say on Widder's Whisky, as a teetotal Muslim, I would never be able to partake of such a drink, although if there is a non-alcoholic version available, I will happily imbibe. Let me say to him, we will of course make sure that as and when it is possible to share more information about the circumstances of the murder and the motivation that is done so in the appropriate way, and also to reassure him at no point has anything been taken off the table in terms of the investigation. It's a live investigation. It is not unusual in these matters that in a fast-paced investigation, more information comes to light that changes the nature or the character of what we think we are dealing with. And I am reassured that Devon and Cornwall Police have been working really closely with counter-terrorism policing, and as soon as this additional information was made available, counter-terrorism policing have taken over as is appropriate and as is the right thing to do.
And I would like to share the sentiments that have already been expressed and send my deepest condolences to the family and friends of Anne Widdecombe. And of course, security is a huge issue to all of us in this chamber, and I'm sure I was not the only one this weekend who went about my business in the constituency looking over my shoulder more than I normally would. And it's terrible that this is the third Member of Parliament, an ex-Member of Parliament, to have been murdered. But it shouldn't be like this. And whilst I thank the Speaker for everything he's doing, and I have already heard from my Operation Bridger contact this morning about my security and is everything okay, which I'm really delighted to have heard from, it does seem that security fob and security in our houses is not really enough. And so I'd just like to ask the Home Secretary what more she can do to work with the Parliamentary Security Department and with the Speaker to make sure that our security is not undermined.
I thank my honourable friend. Let me say to her, we wouldn't, of course, ever comment on the specific nature of the arrangements that are made for members of Parliament for their security, either here on the estate or in their homes or constituencies either. However, let me assure her that there are a number of measures that are taken and that for local policing, as well as working with the Parliamentary Security Department, there is an offer for all members of Parliament, and then there are also specific risk assessments as well when there is something for an individual, something of concern relating to a particular individual. So let me just reassure her that I think those arrangements are comprehensive. However, we should ask ourselves always whether they are enough and whether they are responding to the changing nature of threats or the spike in threat activity that we sometimes see as well. And let me assure her I will, of course, be working closely with the Parliamentary Security Department and policing more broadly to make sure these arrangements are as tight and as robust and as comprehensive as they need to be.
Sir Julian Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and may I apologise to you and to the House that the fact that I have to chair a meeting in a few minutes' time prevents me staying as I would wish to do till the end of the statement. When I went up as an undergraduate to Oxford in late 1970 and joined the University Conservative Association, there were two outstanding figures a year ahead of me in that august body. One was Anne Widdecombe and the other was Nicholas Turner. And a few years later, in February 1980, Anne Widdecombe and I shared a taxi to the funeral of Nicholas Turner, who had heroically sacrificed his life in an attempt to rescue his young daughter Alice, it was a double funeral, who had been swept into the sea by a freak wave. Anne was always there when her friends needed support. And on a lighter note, she was always there ready to bring her friends back down to earth. So when she was elected, I think in 1987 for the first time, and I happened to be moving flats, I gifted her a relatively new washing machine that was now surplus to my requirements. And for several years after she became an MP, she used to invite me once a year, almost like clockwork, to have lunch with her in this place. And I naturally assumed that it was that she wished to imbibe the wisdom of my political advice. It was only by accident that she once revealed, when I suggested that to her and how flattered I was, she said, "Oh, no, Julian." She said, "This is rent for the washing machine." Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, Mr. Speaker will certainly remember that in 2008 to 2009, this House spent a lot of time taking steps to ensure that MPs' home addresses did not in future have to be revealed either in answer to freedom of information requests or on ballot papers and notices of nomination. And it therefore comes as a bit of a shock to me to read in one of the reports today that Anne had, and it may turn out to be complete coincidence, featured in her home on a programme on television extensively only 6 days before she died. And it said that the name of the home had been obscured, but there is software available that if you put up a picture of a place, particularly if you know the general area where it is, it will identify the address. So may I please appeal to members and ex-members from whatever political party, do not throw away the gains we made, and whatever else you do, keep your home addresses as private as you possibly can.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I think the Honourable Gentleman makes some really wise points on the safety of MPs' home addresses. And let me just say to him, I will make sure that in the work that I carry out alongside the Speaker on the lesson to be learned from the circumstances of Anne's murder, I will make sure that the privacy and security of home addresses is something that we consider.
Florence Esheloni.